Hello, my name is Joe, and I'm going to be talking to Abbie from Avictus Wellbeing about how to overcome barriers and invisible struggles that many young people face. Hi Abbie, thanks for joining us.
Hi, it's a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
How does fear of judgment show up from young people moving from education into employment?
So, fear of judgment often shows up in really quiet ways sometimes. So, it might look like not applying for a job you actually want because you're thinking, I'm not ready. Or you could be spending hours overthinking one interview answer. Or sitting in a meeting and staying silent even though you've got something valuable to say. I think a lot of it comes from thoughts like everyone else knows what they're doing, or I'll mess this up and people will think I'm useless. But here's the truth, most people starting work feel unsure, they're just hiding it. The way through, I think, is it isn't waiting to feel confident, it's recognising that fear is normal in transitions. So you could ask yourself, what's the actual fact here and what's just my assumption? And you can finally take one small brave action. Apply for the new role. You could ask the question, you could speak once in a meeting, and confidence grows after that action. It's just not before.
So, why is social anxiety particularly strong at that stage in life?
This stage of life, it's all about identity, I think. So you're kind of figuring out who you are, what you're good at, where you fit, and that naturally makes you more sensitive to what people think. And then on top of that, you've got social media. It looks like everyone has a 5-year plan and they've got this dream job. And then when you leave school, you kind of lose that built-in structure, and workplaces can feel more uncertain. So what we get from uncertainty is we get social anxiety. So to manage it, it's reducing comparison where you can. So it's unfollowing accounts that trigger you. Focus on your own values, like what matters to you, not just what looks impressive. And remember, early careers, they're for learning, they're not for proving. You're not expected to be a finished product at 18 or 20.
So, how can someone tell the difference between normal nerves and social anxiety?
So normal nerves show up before something important, like an interview or your first day, so you might feel butterflies, but once you get going, they tend to settle down. Social anxiety is a little bit different, so it can stop you from going in the first place. So you might feel like you've got a racing heart, you're sweating, nausea, and then afterwards you almost replay everything you've said and you're criticising yourself. And if anxiety is making you avoid opportunities or limiting your daily life, then that's when it's more than nerves. And how we overcome that and a way through that is with gradual exposure. So we start small. So maybe thinking one phone call or asking one question. Challenge thoughts like everyone thinks I'm stupid, and how we do that is we ask, well, what evidence do I actually have? And if it's persistent, we can speak to a GP, we can speak to a counsellor or a youth worker, they can really help. It's about not managing it alone.
What role does what will people think play in career choices?
Okay, so that question can shape huge decisions. So for some young people, they choose careers because they sound respectable rather than meaningful. Others avoid creative paths because they're worried that people might not take them seriously. Often the judgment that we fear and that we're feeling hasn't even happened, it's kind of imaginary. So a helpful question when we're feeling like this is, whose voice is this? Is it mine? Is it a parent's? Is it society? Social media's? So defining success, it's in a way that feels right for you. And it's also about remembering that no matter what you choose, someone will have an opinion. You can't build your future around avoiding every possible criticism.
Why do young people struggle to show up as themselves at work?
A lot of young people think that they have to become a completely different person to be professional. They might worry about being too loud or worry about being too quiet or too different or just not fitting in with the culture. And for some, there are extra layers to that. So you've got cultural expectations, you've got identity pressures, or not seeing anyone like them in leadership. Professionalism doesn't mean losing your personality. It means being respectful and responsible, not robotic. So what you can do is you can start small and you can share one opinion and bring one part of your personality into conversations. And over time, authenticity, it builds confidence. So look for workplaces that align with your values. That's what will make a big difference.
So, how does perfectionism link to the idea of judgment?
Perfectionism often starts as protection. So it says, if I do this perfectly, no one can criticise me. But the problem is, Perfection isn't possible. And trying to be perfect, it can lead to burnout because you're constantly trying to raise that bar. Or procrastination, because starting something feels risky if it might not be perfect. So a healthier mindset is progress over perfection. So mistakes aren't proof you're bad, they're data, and they show you what you can improve on. So celebrate effort. Did you try? Did you show up? Because that's growth.
What practical strategies help young people manage interview anxiety?
Well, first, prepare stories rather than scripts. Because if you memorise answered word for word, you're going to panic when you forget them. But if you know a few stories about times that you've worked hard, that you've solved a problem, or you've showed teamwork, you can adapt to them. So you can practice with someone supportive. The more you say the words out loud, the less scary they feel. Right before the interview, regulate your breathing. Slow inhale for 4 and slow exhale for 6. That can calm your nervous system. And remember, it's a two-way conversation. They're not judging your worth as a human being. They're seeing if you and the role fit each other.
How can someone build confidence if they don't feel confident yet?
Confidence is built through action, not positive thinking alone. It's action. Every time you do something slightly uncomfortable and survive it, your brain gathers evidence like, I can handle this. So set one small stretch challenge each week. Keep a proof list on your phone with achievements, kind feedback that you've received, things that you've overcame. And then when your self-doubts hits, you can look at that evidence that you've got. You could also practice self-compassion. So speak to yourself like you would a friend. Confidence grows faster when criticism decreases.
How does comparison impact mental health during this transition?
Comparison fuels imposter syndrome. You see someone else's job title or apprenticeship announcement and think, I'm behind. But you're comparing your full behind the scenes to their highlight reel, if we're talking in social media terms. Everyone's timeline is different. Some people start fast and pivot later. Some move slower and then build steadily. You can focus on skill building rather than speed. And you can ask, what am I learning right now? That kind of keeps you grounded in growth instead of competition.
And finally, what message would you give to a young person who feels paralysed by the fear of judgment?
So first, you are not the only one who feels this. Almost everyone does at some point. Second, most people are too busy worrying about themselves to judge you as harshly as you imagine. And third, growth always involves discomfort. If you wait until fear disappears, you'll stay stuck. Courage isn't about absence of fear. It's acting while fear is present. And trust me, your future self will thank you for the risks you take now, even the imperfect ones.
Thank you so much for talking to us today, Abbie. I'm sure our listeners will find that extremely interesting.
Thank you for inviting me. It's been fun.